1, 2.
Okay.
Right, a very good morning to you, gentlemen and lady. Welcome to this press conference. I will make a quick introduction. On my far left, that's Zimbabwe Cricket Chairman, Mr. Tawenga Mkuhlani. And on my immediate left, that's Mr. David Richardson, the ICC Chief Executive Officer. Right, so what we'll be doing is I'll be passing around this mic. If you have a question, you put up your hand, introduce yourself, let us know the organization you are representing, then you can fire away. Right, who's going to get the ball rolling? All right, before we do that, I will ask the chairman to give us a few words. All right.
Thank you, Darlington. Good afternoon, lady and gentlemen, and welcome. Thank you for coming through for this press conference. It's indeed a pleasure to be meeting you this afternoon in the company of David Richardson, the ICC Chief Executive Officer, who has been with us since yesterday. And today, we have been engaged in a series of meetings. You would have seen in the press in the past few days that we were expecting a delegation from ICC. He came along with the Chief Financial Officer of the ICC, of course, to sit down with the Zimbabwe Cricket Administration and try to see how we can map the way forward insofar as our restructuring is concerned in the area of finance and in our cricket issues. We've had very positive meetings and very fruitful meetings, and I'm grateful on behalf of Zimbabwe Cricket and the cricket fraternity in Zimbabwe that David, you managed to come through and you participated, and we're grateful with the help that we're getting from the ICC. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Maybe if I can just add a few things. I think you would have seen during the qualifier tournament the rich cricket culture that exists in Zimbabwe. And I think the ICC recognizes that. Zimbabwe is one of our full members, and it took a lot of work to get to that status. And over the past so many years, Zimbabwe has got itself into a difficult position financially. Its performances on the field have not been maybe up to the standards that Zimbabweans would like. And it reached a stage where things were getting critical. The liabilities to the banks and to the various creditors were crippling. But having recognized the culture that does exist, the potential that does exist for cricket in Zimbabwe, ICC felt that it needs to work with Zimbabwe to give it every chance of working its way out of their current predicament. And to that extent, at the last board meeting, the board approved, based on projected revenues that ICC might receive, they approved a certain distribution to Zimbabwe Cricket over the cycle that we run, which goes until 2023. But that distribution was subject to us sitting down with Zimbabwe and working out a business plan, call it that, an action plan which will enable Zimbabwe to actually, in a sustainable way and a realistic way, work themselves out of this current situation to a position where they are self-sustainable and can be a valuable full member going forward. So these meetings were extremely valuable. I think we made a lot of progress in putting together this plan on a collaborative basis, which we'll present to our board in October. And hopefully they will see that, okay, Zimbabwe cricket can be viable. There is a lot of hard work that needs to take place. There are a number of hard decisions that need to be made, both on the financial side, on the staffing side, which includes the staffing side of things. The bottom line is you can only spend as much money as you're getting in. And at the moment, the revenues that Zimbabwe Cricket generate are almost exclusively reliant on ICC revenues. So not only do we have to make sure that we're cutting costs and are cutting our cloth to, what's the saying? Cut our cloth to fit what you know what I mean. We also need to make sure that we look at ways of generating new revenues for the game. And this will come with increased confidence in Zimbabwe cricket. You can't expect to sign sponsors if they don't have confidence in what's happening on the ground. So slowly but surely we will build confidence together with Zimbabwe cricket in Zimbabwe cricket and the viability of it in the longer term. And then hopefully from Zimbabwe cricket will move from strength to strength. But I wanted to emphasize that this is not a meeting where we've solved all the problems and suddenly we can go away and everything is now hunky-dory. No, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take working with the whole cricket community in Zimbabwe. The old guys, the new guys, the players, the government, the sporting bodies. ZAMCO have been tremendously helpful in structuring a deal with Zimbabwe cricket that will enable them and give them a lifeline to move forward. But this is just the start, and so I agree with Doc. The meetings were really very frank, very helpful, but I emphasize again, it's only the start. We've still got a long way to go. I think we use the words, Zimbabwe cricket is in survival mode. For the next 2 years, we plan to have an activity list, not even a strategy, a list of activities that we need. These are the absolute priorities, the things we need to do, and we'll tick them off one by one as we get through them. But at the end of it, I'm certainly confident that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and Zimbabwe cricket will hopefully be something that the country of Zimbabwe can be proud of. Thanks, Doc.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Doc. I will now open it up to the floor. Questions? Sorry.
Larry at ZimdiTv.com as well as Zim from Stereo. My question is, in as far as, of course, you've made reference to the tough decisions. This is a question for either one of you. Made reference to the tough decisions, and some of the tough decisions also have an implication or are implied by the status of the economy as it stands. How much has that been factored into the conversation that, you know, because the game of cricket is patently expensive, in as far as the financial implications of whatever decisions have to make, how much is that taken into consideration as far as the action plan over the next 2 years?
Perhaps I can start, Doc. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. We have to be realistic. We have to take into account the macro situation that exists in the country. And in a way, though, you've just had your elections, and I think I'm not an economic expert, but I would imagine that the country is on the verge of something really hopeful, and but it will take building confidence. It'll take a bit of time, and cricket is more or less in the same boat. It'll take time to build confidence in the cricket economy and the cricket business before sponsors will come running in and approaching us. But having said that, there are small things. You can start off small. You can start off with small sponsorships, and there are ways. There are things that can be done, and it's these that we've tried to identify, and hopefully we'll work at. And as I say, start small and grow from there.
Okay, Daniel Nakaniso from the Standard newspaper. There have been reports that Zimbabwean cricket had been on the verge of being put on notice for suspension. How far true is that, and how bad was the situation financially for Zimbabwe cricket?
Very true. So to give you just to give you some perspective that will hopefully allow you to understand why that might be the case. The ICC is 105 members. We rely heavily on the Indian subcontinent to generate revenues. So for our ICC events, the television deals, the sponsorship deals are largely with companies that are in it because of the Indian market. So we are reliant. And there are many countries, many member countries, that are looking for increased distributions from the ICC to make their cricket sustainable. And if you look at the structure of ICC at the moment, we have 12 full members. A country like Zimbabwe will hopefully generate over an 8-year cycle close to 95 million, around that. We have countries like Holland who only get 16 million if they're lucky over that 8-year cycle. So they are constantly looking at how come Zimbabwe deserves to get so much, whereas we don't. So there is pressure on members to become self-sustaining and not be a drain on the ICC distributions. So when you got to a situation where Zimbabwe found itself, it wasn't really performing that well. It was indebted to the banks to a huge extent. Their liabilities were huge. There were murmurings that, hold on, Zimbabwe has got sizable distributions in the past. What have they done with it? What is the return on investment that Zimbabwe is providing? And those questions get asked of a whole lot of members. It gets asked of the USA. Why are you investing in USA? There's no return. So it's not an unusual question for the other members to ask. And it reached a stage where, hold on, we just didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. More money is going to Zimbabwe, more money, but what is happening? They don't seem to be coming right. But as I say, I think the turning point was that qualifier in Zimbabwe, where people around the world were again reminded that cricket is a big sport in Zimbabwe, and there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it is worth that investment and that effort to get it right. But it was very close.
Brian Grevima, freelance. So part of the model that we've seen was also on the cost-cutting measures, was cutting on incoming tolls to Zimbabwe. But having looked at the growth of cricket over the last decade or so, playing cricket in Zimbabwe and children seeing their stars on TV has it's grown the game. So as ICC, what plans do you have in the cost-cutting measures to make sure that development continues and games are played more at home, so that we inspire the next generation of cricket stars? Because if you're looking at our cricket players at the moment, it's an aging squad. So we are just really in need of your outgoing towards your Zimbabwe A and also towards at home in order to inspire the next generation of cricketers.
Absolutely right. There are so many things that you need to do. You need to have a development program. You need to have a grassroots mass participation program to introduce in the schools. You need to have a pathway for your players to progress from school cricket to club cricket to provincial cricket to the national team. You need your A team to be able to tour all over the world. But the bottom line is, ICC has only a certain amount of money that we can hand out. And that money at the moment is X amount. And you can only spend what you've got. So we would love to do certain things, and that's not saying that we won't get to doing those things down the line. But what we have to do is, what can we afford to do now? For the next 2 years, in this survival period, what can we afford to do that will enable us to at least put the building blocks in place to do all those things that we would love to do? But if we're going to take the approach of we have to still go on 18 tours, we still have to host 3 test matches, 5 ODIs, and 6 T20s every year at home, costing us a fortune, even though we're not generating the revenues, then it's just going to be a recipe for disaster, and we'll end up in a bigger hole than we are currently at. So I agree with you, all those things are absolutely important, and maybe we can make a small start in some of those areas. But we can only do as much as we can afford to do now. Later on it will come. Sorry, I'm doing all this.
Austin Karunga from Daily News. From ICC findings, what has caused Zimbabwe cricket to be in the position they are at the moment, and what is it that they need to do as they try to move over the survival mode?
In a way, I don't want to even look backwards. I think it's been a culmination of factors. The situation in the country itself is one of them. I I think starting afresh now and looking forward is the only way to go. There's a culture of cricket, there's still cricket, there's still some good cricket schools in the country. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we need to look forward now. I don't think there's much purpose in looking back. Just the financial situation, the economic situation in the country made it very difficult. The interest rates that you had to pay on loans, etc., just had a snowballing effect, and before you knew it, in a very short space of time, Zimbabwe cricket found itself in a very difficult financial position. Now we've worked away, and with organizations like ZAMCO, they've thrown a lifeline, and it's been incredibly helpful. And I think, you know, we wouldn't be recommending to the ICC board that we should go this route if we didn't think there was light at the end of the tunnel. And as long as you've got that vision and that hope, I think we will be successful. But it's going to take hard work. It's going to take people who know what they're doing to run Zimbabwe cricket. It's going to take people who are in it for cricket's sake, not for their own interest's sake, to run Zimbabwe cricket. Otherwise, if we failed on any of those areas, it's going to come crashing down.
Tino Moyo, Zimbabwe Cricket. Dave, this is to you. It's encouraging to see that the ICC have come on board and decided to support Zimbabwe cricket with the current situation financially. But from a player's perspective, I think we lack a lot in quality cricket at domestic level, representative level, and international level. Is this something that's been discussed over the last couple of days? And has there been an action plan or ideas going forward to make sure that that is addressed?
Yes, obviously, how we can become, how Zimbabwe cricket can be competitive, not only now but well into the future, is one of the key components of any strategy going forward. And whilst we have to be realistic as to what we can afford, taking that into account, there have been plans discussed as to what kind of domestic structure can be implemented at this stage. And I don't want to give you the details. I'll leave it to Doc to announce those in due course, but certainly it was a point of discussion, and there is a plan of action which will hopefully be enable the cricket that is played to be competitive and of a decent quality, but also is structured in a way that it is affordable.
It's Larry Kweterai again. So just talking about issues around how much cricket might be able to be played, whether it's the 8 tours and so forth. Should we expect that there should be less cricket, and has this got any implication on the FTP tours over the next 2 years, the financial situation that Zimbabwe has?
There might be a few implications for the FTP tours, not significant though. But what we have to look at is which of the tours are going to cost us too much money, as opposed to the tours that generate revenues, and which are more affordable. So there might be an incoming tour that costs too much and the revenues just aren't there, which might need to be postponed over the next 2 years. But I don't see a significant impact on the volume of cricket. And there are other ways that we can provide content for the national team and for the A team that hopefully are less costly than going to all parts of the globe to play these matches.
I think basically the discussions and the business plan that we have put in place is seeking to strike a balance between a sound financial structure and a sound cricketing structure. So in that you find certain tours that are generally costly to our financial model. We may have to postpone them and cover that space with more cost-effective but competitive cricket structures. So we will achieve the same result, but with a new model, with a new hybrid model that is sustainable, and together with working with the ICC. So yes, there will be implications on the FTP, but as David said, They are not major, and they are mitigatory measures to try and cover up for whatever disruptions that do take place on the FTP.
Just a follow-up question on that. Then the question that will also then be asked if there's no implications there. How much would they have, say, on the rankings of Zimbabwe going into, say, a 2020 World T20 and 2023 World Cup? Will that not make Zimbabwe less competitive in that aspect? And how much of that has been taken into consideration, given that there is also financial rewards that come from participating in such major tournaments?
I don't think that's an issue. This, as I say, is a 2-year project plan. Zimbabwe is ranked where at the moment? I'm not sure where Zimbabwe is ranked, but it's not going to impact the Zimbabwe ranking to that extent. I would expect that Zimbabwe would have every chance of qualifying for the next World T20 in Australia. Nothing that we've done would jeopardize that opportunity. And similarly for the 23 World Cup, I think they came very close at the last event of qualifying. They were one of a number of teams that just missed out. So again, I don't see that these plans, if anything, I think it will create more competitive cricket, the domestic structures that are planned going forward, more competitive, and therefore should enhance performance. And the volume of international cricket that Zimbabwe has played up till now has not been significant. It's less than a number of other countries, and I would imagine that volume will stay more or less constant going forward, despite the plans and the need to be more careful as to which tours we go on and which tours we don't.
And I think with the new structure of the ODI competition, you'll find out that ICC has already looked at the issue of the imbalances in terms of the FTP, and that's why they came up with the new structure of the ODI qualification process, where all members literally have got a certain guaranteed number of ODIs. So that works in favor of countries like Zimbabwe. Then along the way, you continue to have your bilateral FTPs with the traditional countries that we have been playing with, so that we aid to the amount of cricket that we actually play.
So that ODI league, it kicks off in 2020, yeah. And Zimbabwe is one of the 13 teams in that league. Everyone plays 12 series against the other teams. So it's not, to my mind, it's not a factor.
Dave, you spoke about not trying to go back into the past, but the question is, with whatever you have discussed with Zimbabwe cricket for the next 2 years, obviously you know some of the reasons, whatever you discussed behind the scenes, why we are where we are. Won't we come back again, 2 years from now, where the issue again, because if you're looking at the model that we're talking about, in a way we are saying that Zimbabwe cricket, if some of the dates came through running series where they were making losses, so it means again you are saying in a way that the game is not sustainable to be run in this country because of the various reasons that probably our TV rights don't attract that much money, and obviously you need the Indian tour here and there. So some of the reasons why we are where we are, do we think they'll be addressed in the 2 years, so that when we come back fully fledged, we'll be able to have a sustainable model of running cricket in Zimbabwe, where we won't have these kind of tests that we are talking about today?
Well, hopefully that's exactly what the 2-year plan is all about, trying to put yourself in a position where you can go forward on a self-sustaining basis. But it will require good leadership. It will require expertise. What I can say though is that if the ICC board in October sanctions this plan and agrees that it is realistic and doable, then ICC will be hand in hand with Zimbabwe cricket going forward. It will do so. It will implement this plan with us overseeing every move and offering our experience and help where we can. Obviously, to some extent, Zimbabwe's got to make it happen itself, but at least it will have ICC not necessarily just looking over their shoulders, checking that the money's not disappearing down the drain, but also providing experience, help, giving direction where needed. And so that's what I hope will give you some degree of confidence that it's not only going to be left up to Zimbabwe to fend for themselves.
Maybe just to add to that, David, part of the major problem that Zimbabwe cricket has had is the issue of the legacy loans, mainly from the commercial banks. And the concern with the ICC board has been that the distributions that are going into Zimbabwe are going into servicing these loans, these legacy loans, and not necessarily going into cricket. And that gave to the structure that we've put in place with ZAMCO, that these loans are housed under ZAMCO for the next 5 years at a frozen interest rate, and they will be paid in 2023. So what that has done is to free our cash flow space to allow that money goes into cricketing areas rather than going into servicing these loans. So to further help you, in addition to what David has said, that we are not alone as Zimbabwe Cricket in this. We are together with ICC. We no longer have that burden of the legacy loans from the financial institution, and the finance costs that we at times going up to 3 million annually are no longer appearing on our cash flow. So that should be able to assist us to move in a positive direction insofar as trading ourselves out of our current position is concerned.
But I just want to make the point, Doc, as well, just to re-emphasize, these set of meetings haven't solved all the problems. We still need to provide good leadership. We still need to sort out players' contracts. There are still creditors that are owed money, and we can't afford to pay them today or at the end of the month. We have to work out a plan. But what we're saying is we'll get there in the end, and this plan will eventually, everyone that is owed money will get paid. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will be structured, and we will be there to make sure that that happens, and the plans don't go awry.
But as part of good leadership, have you also spoken about the issue involving
some cricket brains within the country, some former players, because if you're talking about those measures in the next 2 years, cricket people always find ways how to play the game because they are passionate about the game.
Yes, as I said, I think part of this is going to be about trying to unite the cricket community, make sure that people who've maybe felt disenfranchised in the past are made to feel welcome again. But it also depends on everyone's attitude. You know, it's got to be for Zimbabwe cricket. It's not for my self-interest or for my purposes, or for me to make the team again, or for me to sit on the board. It's going to take a lot of work from everybody.
Dave, what's your message to the Zimbabwe cricket players who at some point went for months without getting their salaries? You repeatedly mentioned that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So perhaps for them it means these issues of non-payments have been resolved. Is that so for them? Or it could resurface again?
No, I think that the principle is that contracts will be honoured, but we've got to be realistic. As I said, it can't happen tonight or at the end of the month. We will address that. There will be a plan to bring any monies owing, settle those as quickly as we can, and then make sure that any promises made, any contracts into going forward can be honoured. And otherwise, you end up robbing Peter to pay Paul, and just to keep things afloat. What we want to have is a proper budget, a proper plan, and then work through it. And that plan must be affordable and viable. And as long as that's the case, then we won't get ourselves into a trouble where we've made promises and can't deliver.
Okay.
Also, maybe some contracts might be passed.
Yes, that might be the case, but I can't give you the detail now as to exactly what that might be. But as I said, we need to do a lot of things, but there are certain things that have to be done in the next 2 years, and everyone might have to. We have to become leaner, no doubt about that, and we can't do everything at once.
Okay, my final question for the chairman. The issue of, I've just forgot my question. All right, the issue of the sponsors from Zimbabwe, so with this feeling that there's going to be more accountability, there's going to be more leaner, meaner, and so forth, and have any potential sponsors intimated to you that they have a little bit more confidence in the process that you've taken place with, and that they might be more willing to come in, maybe even just sponsoring the domestic front and things of that nature?